haven't done a steak sandwich on the channel yet, and I feel like it's time to do that, so we're going to be making the most delicious and easy to make steak sandwich. Let's get straight into it. To start off, we are going to be making a beautiful caramelized onion. These only take about 15 to 20 minutes, and to do this, we're obviously going to need an onion. This is a brown or yellow onion, and we're going to slice off both ends, slice it in half, and then just peel off that skin from the outside. You can save the scraps for a stock. I am also going to remove one layer of the onion just because it was a little bit dirty. With that done, we're going to then thinly slice the onion in the half moon position, obviously into thin strips, and when you get about 3/4 of the way through, just lay it flat to continue slicing safely. Place a pan over medium-low heat, add in 1 teaspoon of olive oil, and that's regular olive oil, not extra virgin olive oil, as well as 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. Allow that to melt slightly, then we can add in the onions, as well as a large pinch of salt, and then we're going to saute these for about 15 to 20 minutes, just breaking up any layers that may be in there, and then just obviously let this go in the background. We're going to be doing other stuff in the time being, so just make sure you come back to this every now and again, just so it doesn't burn. In the meantime, we are going to be making our sauce or mayonnaise, whatever you want to call it. It is a mayonnaise base, which consists of 1 whole egg, 15 milliliters or 2.5 teaspoons of white vinegar for a little bit of acidity, 1 teaspoon or 10 grams of Dijon mustard for a nice little tang, and then we're going to need 3/4 of a cup or 180 milliliters of any neutral flavored oil, which will help bind this or emulsify this all together. To blend this up, I'm using an immersion blender on high speed. This will instantly come together. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can do this in a regular blender or by hand, and I'll leave details about that in the description. Once this is nice and thick, we're then going to increase the flavour with 1.5 tablespoons or 30 grams of whole grain mustard, as well as a small drizzle of truffle oil, which is completely optional. You don't have to use this if you don't want to go out and buy a whole bottle. Season to taste with a little bit of salt as well as pepper if you wanted to, then just blend this up again just to make sure everything is evenly combined and nice and thick. Either leave it in the container that you made it in or transfer it to a clean sterilised jar, place on the lid or just wrap the bowl up tightly, and then we can place this in the fridge until we're ready to serve, and it will last up to 4 days. Going back to the onions, this has now been cooking away for about 15 minutes. These are really soft, they have a beautiful caramelization on them, and if you push down a little bit hard on them, they will completely break up, but we don't want that to happen. This is completely optional, but I'm also going to add in a nice drizzle of Worcestershire sauce. I used about 1 tablespoon here. We can then mix this through, cook it for about 30 seconds, and then we can remove this from the heat. Also, you can check it for seasoning, adding salt and pepper as well, but I feel like the Worcestershire sauce adds that beautiful depth and a little bit of umami flavour that's needed. I then recommend removing the onions from the pan because they will continue to cook, and there we have our beautiful and delicious caramelized onions. As for the main show for this recipe, we're going to need steak. Obviously, I'm using sirloin, also known as porterhouse. These weigh about 350 grams each, and for the demonstration, I am only going to show you 1, but this recipe does serve 4 people if you do use 2 steaks. Now, I'm going to generously season this with salt, and I have let this be out of the fridge for about an hour to get to room temperature. Seasoning is to taste, so if you don't want to use as much salt as I'm using, you do not have to do that. Now, everyone cooks steak differently. I'm doing it in a pan for this demonstration, but you can do it on a barbecue, grill, cast iron. It's completely up to you. Get this pan smoking hot over high heat, add in a little bit of oil, then we're going to place the steak fat cap down. Sear this for about 1 minute to get that beautiful golden rendered fat, then lie the steak flat, and we're going to sear this for about 2.5 minutes on each side. What we're looking for is a beautiful golden crust, which shows that we can then flip this over, and we're going to obviously cook this for another 2.5 minutes on the opposite side, but after about 30 seconds, add in 14 grams of unsalted butter and 2 cloves of crushed garlic, then use a spoon and baste that butter over the steak. This will add fantastic flavour to the meat overall. And once that's done with the right timings on each side or correct temperature, with however you like to cook, just remove it from the stovetop. Then I like to place it over a wire rack with a tray underneath to catch any of those juices that will leak out, and then just let this rest for about 6 to 7 minutes. You can also pour over any remaining butter and garlic. Just like the steak, people like to cook toast differently as well. I'm just going to use a regular toaster, and what I have here is 4 slices of sourdough. You can use any bread of your choice. Obviously, you can toast this in a pan as well, or do it on a griddle pan to get those nice little char marks. But also, don't toast this too much because no one wants to eat concrete. Now, what I have here is 100 grams of rocket. It's also known as arugula. We're going to drizzle this up with about 2 teaspoons of extra virgin olive oil, as well as a nice pinch of sea salt flakes, and you can also add some cracked black pepper to this too. And then just use your clean hands to mix this all together. Going back to the steak, we can then slice this up just for presentational purposes. I'm slicing it in half just so you can see how it's cooked. It's like that rare but going on medium rare colour, and that's absolutely beautiful for me, but if you like it cooked longer, please do so. And with this, we're just going to slice this into thin strips across the grain, which will break up the muscle fibre and tissue. And don't forget to have a little taste for yourself. To assemble, place 2 nice big spoonfuls of the mayo or the sauce onto each slice of bread. Make sure you spread it around evenly just so everything is covered, and that way you get a nice bit with every single bite. Place over the rocket or any sort of salad you decide to use, and then we can add the steak over the top of that. And like I said, this recipe does serve 4, but what I'm showing here is just 1. Over the top of the steak, make sure you add those delicious caramelized onions, and then cheese is completely optional, but I do recommend using it. And what I have here is some Swiss cheese that I've just sliced in half. And if you have a blowtorch that actually works, unlike mine, just melt that cheese over the top. You can also place these under the grill or broiler in the oven. Once that's all done, close the sandwich up with the opposite side of toast, push it down a little bit to make this nice and compact and nothing will fall out that way. Then we can use a bread knife just to slice through this. You can slice it on an angle for a little bit of presentation, it's up to you. But that then reveals that beautiful center that smells and looks absolutely delicious. Now there is only one thing left to do, and that is, of course, we can then dig in. There's so much going on in there. The flavour's absolutely incredible. It has an amazing texture. If you want your steak cooked longer, cook it for longer. I have all the details about those timings and everything like that in the description. But definitely do make this recipe. It's good to change things up a little bit, and this tastes absolutely incredible. Hit that like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.